Welcome to the official Orange County Riptide podcast, The Rip Current. I'm your host, Justin Gans. Alongside me is Andrew Relvis, Adam Coonan, and Ryan Logan. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty well.
Pretty good. Thanks, guys. The Riptide played the San Diego SunRays in an interesting game the other night, as into the 11th inning, the sprinklers decided to come on at the Great Park Stadium, and the game was suspended until July 16th. It was a tightly contested game, and it's interesting to see something like this happen. Andrew, what are your thoughts on it as you were one of the broadcasters on last night's game?
Yeah, you're always going to have battles with teams in the CCL. And I think one of those teams that we've always kind of struggled with, the San Diego SunRays. They have 3 wins on the season, 2 of them against us. I don't know. It was just weird. Like, they scored first 5 runs in the first. Then we battled all the way back, and then some weird things happened. And then right as we were about to walk it off, the sprinklers came out. Just a weird game, but it was really fun, to say the least.
Building off of what Andrew said, that first inning that he mentioned where they gave up 5 runs, 3 errors in that first inning. A lot of the issues that they've had this season have come to fruition against the SunRays. Errors and then some walks with, hitting-wise, not being able to hit with runners in scoring position. They were able to, get back into the game because they were able to hit with runners in scoring position. But down the stretch there, we could have got out of there before an 11th inning if, they can score a run with 1 out, bases loaded, a chance to win the game. So certainly some frustrations there in not being able to close it out, but a nice job of being able to battle back and I guess force now this extended game that's going to take place in a couple weeks.
Yeah, to build off of what Adam said, I mean, in the beginning, we were not able to hit at all, and it sort of changed the course of what we were talking about last week of not being able to come back in several games to start the season when our starting pitcher does not go anything longer than even 4 innings. But I sort of like to see that we were able to come back and stay in the game, especially with Nate Cadena's home run, game-tying home run to tie it at 5. And, I definitely think, it sort of just shows the chemistry where we're coming back, and also just the team mentality of all staying together. And also I think it speaks on the coaching staff to sort of de-escalate the situation because, at the end of the day, it's a summer league, and you never really if you did not see the game, there was almost a brawl that broke out. And don't want to point any names at any players. I don't know what's true and what's not, but it's never fun to see that, especially when these players are playing to potentially get to their next school and transferring and all things along those lines.
Yeah, and before we faced off against the SunRays and the sprinkler incident happened, we had a 2-game win streak as we took down San Diego and Arroyo Seco for the first time this season. We ended up splitting the home and home series for the first game at the Great Park, and then transferring up, to Pasadena as we ended up losing that game to the Saints. Adam, your thoughts on the win streak and the home and home split against Arroyo Seco?
Yeah, Arroyo Seco is a team that the Riptide have also kind of struggled against this season, able to pick up their first one, as you mentioned, against them the other day on Taylor Swift night in a 14-1 big win, big ending towards the end there. They scored 8 runs, led by Michael Diaz, who almost hit for the cycle. But it was good to see them pick up a win against a team that they've had a little bit of trouble against, able to pick up that win against Arroyo Seco. So, I think it's interesting, actually. Arroyo Seco has proven to be one of the best teams in the CCL year after year, and they're one of the teams that I feel like has an identity in just this short amount of time. They're a loud team. If you've gone to a Riptide game and listened into their dugout, they're chirping the whole game. We mentioned almost a brawl the last time that they played, in addition to the brawl that almost happened the other night, a couple nights where we've almost had a fight out there. But they're a team that's chirping. They're loud. Their social media team's really loud, tweeting out shots at the Riptide. But they're a team that is aggressive at the plate. They're aggressive with the way that they approach the game. And I think they're a team that could really cause some damage, do some damage down the line in the CCL playoffs. So it's good to see the Riptide pick up a win against them there, and hopefully they can find more success against them as the season goes on.
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score right now and remembering some of the stuff that happened in that game. And looking at the box score, I see that Luke Johnson hit 2 for 4 against Arroyo Seco this past week, and also had the lonesome RBI, or one of the 3 RBIs, excuse me. And also, that's showing that we were patient at the paint plate. And Luke Johnson, we spoke with him last week, and definitely looking to see more continued success from Luke Johnson. I think that was definitely a key contributor from the game against Arroyo Seco this past week.
Andrew?
Yeah, for that Saints game, I mean, it's good to see the Riptide have success. They lost the first 2 games against the Saints. Can't go down 3-0. Got to take one, and they did. They blew them out. Score wasn't as indicative as how the game was going. It was like 6-1, I think, and then the wheels fell off. But on the road, I mean, lost 11-4. Andrew Parker's worst outing. I think he gave up 8 runs in like 3 1/3. I don't know. You just gotta that one off, and unfortunately for them, the next game they didn't even finish against the SunRays. But the offense was getting better. I've been saying this on the broadcast all year, but the Riptide continue to fight back. It just seems like they always have chances to win these games. Even though they lost 11-4, they stranded 12 base runners. So they keep fighting. Close ones, though, probably go their way later down the line. But it's good to see a young team with such resiliency in the CCL.
And speaking of a couple of those young players, Nathan Cadena has been a really key part for the Riptide this season, having a couple home runs. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Nate's season so far?
Yeah, speaking to Nathan Cadena, I spoke to him briefly at the bonfire, which we highlighted last week, of some speculation of that sort of kicking the team more into gear. But he's been absolutely incredible this past week. Other than this week, before this week too, he's on a 7-game hit streak, and he hit 421 this past week. And also something that took me back to Little League, including him when we spoke to him, is he pitched on Tuesday night. We were down 5 in the top of the 9th inning, and he pitched on the final out, and he actually struck somebody out. And we almost rallied to come back in the bottom of the 9th, but we're unable to complete the comeback. But last night, Sunday night, he had a game-tying home run to ultimately send the game into extra innings. And, he's been a staple of the team's success this past week. And we spoke to Cadena yesterday, and here's what he highlighted.
We're here with Nathan Cadena from the Orange County Riptide. How you doing today, Nate?
I'm doing good. It was a fun day. Got to hang out with my family, and now I'm here doing what I love. So
awesome. Love to hear that. So Wednesday night you pitched, and when I think of that, that brings me back to Little League. Personally, I played baseball. Not saying I would have been one of you guys. It's the furthest you can get from it, but I'd imagine that had to take you back to Little League. How did that feel being out there, especially in front of fans like this at the beautiful Great Park?
For sure. It was awesome getting to do that in front of my family. They haven't seen me pitch in a while. I used to do it in high school. Like when you're out there on the field or when you're hitting, like it's 2 different types of competing. Like you're competing to get somebody out, and then when you're at the plate, you're competing to beat the pitcher. But when I was on the mound, I was competing against the batter, and that felt really cool. Just a different perspective of competitiveness. And it definitely did bring me back to when I was younger, throwing on the mound. And yeah, it was awesome. I want to do it again.
Love to hear that. Also, it's summer ball, and you're trying to get better as a player. Coach Spencer highlighted you go pro ball style, try to hire your baseball IQ and everything like that. As a player, personally, what have you seen progress, or things you've got better at as the season's progressed, even though we're only 3 weeks or so into the season?
The cliche saying, like, you learn something new every day on the baseball field, like that is really, like I really kind of like live by that. Like you really learn something new every day. You know, this game is a game of adjustments, but then they also say like you want to try to stay as consistent as you can. So Spencer highlights it like we get a lot of information from a bunch of different coaches, and you want to build your own plan, your own routine, your own beliefs of the game. And every day I'm working to, you know, build my routine, my beliefs on what I think helps me perform the best. So in the beginning of the summer, I was doing a leg kick, and then it wasn't really working that much. So I talked to my dad, who said spread out a little bit, started spreading out, started hitting the ball a lot harder. Just little adjustments like that throughout the game. I think that's what summer ball is here for, you know, getting as many reps as you can. And, you know, the best reps that you can get is just playing all the time. You get hit in the cage for as long as you want, but you don't really get to see the performance-wise as soon as you step on the field.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nate, you mentioned your dad. He's a guy that played in the Yankees organization, has a long history with baseball. What is your relationship like with him, and how has he helped you throughout your career?
I mean, he has taught me everything. He is the one that, you know, introduced me to this game. I was fortunate enough to have 2 athletes for parents. My mom was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and then obviously my dad played pro ball for a little bit, so he's kind of given me the path, you know, and every day I'm just trying to get to where he was at, or a little, obviously want to be a little better than he was. So it's always a little family competition. And then with my 3 younger brothers, you know, we're all athletes. So it's a blessing to have as many athletes as we have in the family. And it's coming from the top. My dad teaching us to compete. Like today we were on the golf course and all we were doing is competing, you know, wanting to be better than each other. And I think that's what really has helped me out in my game, because you can be gifted on the field, but it's all about your mentality in this game.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you had to rank yourself among your siblings and parents, where do you rank as an athlete in the family?
As a true athlete, I would say I'm second as a true athlete, but baseball wise, I would say I'm second or third. Not gonna lie, my little brother who's right behind me, he's pretty good at this game, and hopefully he comes actually plays on the team, but he's pretty good at this game. My dad played pro ball, so I can't really knock that.
So you're still below Pops, but you're almost there.
Still below Pops. Yeah. I'm almost there. I do believe that I'll top Pops one day, and that's the ultimate goal, to be honest.
And Nate, we've seen your wardrobe style out on the field with the yellow cleats. I know you did play at San Jose State last couple of years. Did you wear those yellow cleats at SJ State, or what's the whole reasoning behind these yellow cleats? Is it for summer ball, or did you wear them there and just brought them here? Tell us a little bit more about, you know, that.
At San Jose State, I didn't get to choose my cleats. They gave us cleats, and we wore those. And then I was scrolling on Instagram. I'm a big Ronald Acuna fan, and he dropped his cleats, his player edition cleats, and I was like, you know, those are the perfect things to rock during summer ball. So I am a kind of stylish guy. I want to pop out there on the field, and I thought that was like a perfect way to show that, you know.
Yeah. And when you were playing at San Jose State, was there any critiques / anything else that you brought to the Orange County Riptide for this season? And also, how do you think like transitioning from San Jose State from metal bats to wood bats has improved your game?
That transition is definitely a real thing, from going to metal to wood bats. You know, you can get it away with off the end, getting a little hit to the right side. With the wood bat, your bat's gonna break, it's gonna go right to the second baseman. Even like in past couple of days, like I remember when I was using a metal bat and I would hit it on a certain spot, like it's going to the outfield, like I'm getting a hit out of it. But I feel that same on a wood bat, and it's not leaving the infield. So it is definitely a transition. Like, you got to hit the ball good. But honestly, all my teammates like the shoes. My former coach came and watched the game. He said he liked the shoes. So I think it's summer ball is a good time to show your personality. And yeah, so I'd love to do.
And speaking of your personality, what's the meaning behind your walk-up song, actually?
I'm just a big reggae fan, to be honest. My friend Charles McAdoo, he showed me that song when we were playing college ball together. He said I should do it as my walk-up, and I thought it was the perfect time to put it out there. I'm actually changing my walk-up song today, so that was actually hopefully the last game with the reggae song. But yeah, I love it. It seems like a lot of the guys like it too, and it's a hit, so maybe I shouldn't change it.
And what's the new walk-up song going to be, actually?
It's going to be Chingy, right there, or right there. So we'll see. It's going to come out tonight, hopefully. We'll see.
Good song. Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, Nate.
Of course.
Welcome back to the Rip Current podcast, your official podcast for your Orange County Riptide. Right now, we'd like to thank a couple of our sponsors for helping us out this season. Wild Rivers Water Park, located across the way from the Great Park Championship Stadium. Pixie Car Wash Ferry, Ticket Smarter, Northwoods Pizza, Chick-fil-A in Woodbury Town Center, and Pear Tree Meats Barbecue. Thank you for all being sponsors of the Orange County Riptide for this 2024 season. Next up, we'd like to talk about a couple of key players that we think have been killing it for Riptide. Andrew, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll start off with one player who this is starting to be a position of depth here for the Riptide. It's Matt Spear, the catcher. He came on this week. He's got a few hits here and there, but he has really come alive, especially defensively. He's a great defensive catcher. Local guy, too, from San Clemente, but every at-bat, it seems like Matt Spear is always competitive. And I talked with head coach Connor Spencer about something a little bit about Matt Spear, and he just said he's a really quality guy, big Division I player. He's got a ton of experience, and I mean, the Riptide have some great catchers. Like compared to last year, we had a few solid catchers, but this year it just seems like we got a lot of quality players. Bren Wilkinson, Max Senesac, who was phenomenal last night, and then you got a guy like Matt Spear, who's just, no pun intended, but he's a spear against these CCL pitchers in the side. He's a strong guy, and the Riptide are really lucky to have him. He's going to have a great season for sure.
Ryan? Adam?
Well, we've talked a
I
lot
just
about
spoke on Cadena.
We've talked a lot about the Riptide hitters throughout this podcast last episode, but let's talk about one of the pitchers. Luke Sterner's been killing it his last two starts. Not a great first start of the season for him, but since that first start, last two starts, big bounce back. Second in the team in strikeouts with 22. Big strikeout guy. And he's been able to go deep into games for OC, which has really helped them and helped their bullpen save their arms and really just provide a safety net for the hitting when it's not there, because he's holding teams to 2 runs the other night, striking out 10 guys. I mean, really impressive numbers. We actually talked to him about the strikeouts, about his bounce back the other day.
We're here with Luke Sterner from the Orange County Riptide. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So you started Wednesday night and you had 6 innings pitched. You pitched 6 innings, 4 hits, and 10 strikeouts. Was there anything that was going particularly right for you, such as one pitch that you're choosing on 1-2 counts or anything like that, or something that you're really getting at to get the batters?
I wouldn't say it was one pitch specifically, but it was more so just the ability to throw any pitch I wanted at any time in the count, because when you can do that, it's a real advantage against the hitters. My changeup early on wasn't I didn't quite have the command of it that I wanted to, but I kept throwing it, so I earned that throughout the game. My curveball, I was pretty consistent with that, my fastball as well. So once you prove yourself able to throw 3 pitches at any time, it puts the hitter in a really tough spot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Luke, oftentimes pitchers come into summer ball looking to work on something specifically, whether it's a certain pitch or adding a new pitch to the repertoire or just their command in general. Is there anything that you came into this summer looking to work on?
Yes, for sure. Overall consistency, because after 2 years away from the game and then last year being my first year back, it was a little hard getting back into the swing of things. But just being able to become a pitcher again and, like I said before, have those 3 pitches and being able to throw them whenever you want to, where you want to, is super important. But also developing a slider or a cutter is something pretty good, because most of the movement on my other pitches is pretty big. So if I could just have something that is moving just enough to miss a barrel, that will be perfect for me.
Luke, so far you're a strikeout machine. I mean, what are you, first or second on the Riptide in strikeouts? You're definitely up there. How have you been able to get ahead of all these CCL bats? You know, really tough league, but you've been ahead of them so far.
Yeah, it is a tough league, and there are definitely a lot of great hitters. But I just think playing to your strengths is something that's super important. So I have a fastball that rides pretty good, and especially at sea level compared to up at BYU where it's pretty thin, it rides a little bit more. So just being able to utilize that and take advantage of the fastball up and mix that in with the curveball, it is pretty deceptive at times. And although I'm not perfect with it, if you can just show that you're capable of doing that early on, it's pretty tough to hit against that.
And Luke, coming into BYU, is there any specific pitches that you want to work on, like a knuckleball or slur pitch, any like specialty pitches that you really want to work on? And also, what is it like getting to pitch for BYU, especially being a higher altitude, and just the environment at college, coming into there and also being pro ball, coming to Summer League Pro Ball is all like, what's the difference in atmosphere in terms of fan bases and just the support you get here from the Riptide?
BYU is my favorite place on earth. I love Provo, and I love the feeling I get every time I'm there. So I have two brothers that also played at BYU. They both played baseball. One of them has continued his career elsewhere. He's now in AAA with the Durham Bulls and the Rays organization. The other one has moved on with his life, and now he's working a job. And it's been really cool to see their examples for me, but they love baseball more than anything. So it's been super fun to have their examples for me. And my sister as well, she played softball for a couple of years at BYU. So just being able to be a family together there has been something pretty special. But in terms of the baseball community there, they love baseball. We always have fans at the games. We love it at BYU, and it's a really good environment if you want to get better at baseball. They have kids who get drafted and kids who sign and kids who play baseball after college. So it's a really good environment and a good place to go if you want to play at the next level and beyond college.
Thank you for your time, Luke.
Of course, thank you.
Welcome back to the Rip Current Podcast, the official podcast of your Orange County Riptide. I'm your host, Justin Gins, here with Adam Coonan, Andrew Relvis, and Ryan Logan. We were just talking about Luke Sterner's great pitching ability, 10 strikeouts, like Adam mentioned. It's been great. One player that I want to mention is a Long Beach State transfer who just came to Long Beach State for his senior season this coming year. Is Jack Hammond, who has been phenomenal for the Riptide this season, as Hammond has had 7 hits and has scored 9 runs throughout the last 7 games with the Riptide as he just came to the team, and is batting a .304 batting average. And in his second game with the Riptide, he hit a home run. So he's been dominant, great hitting, has a lot of power to his game, and can definitely help out the Riptide in their own way. Next up, we would like to discuss the CCL standings as they are coming into this week. Like we did last week, we are going to start with the South Division, as the Conejo Oaks are now in first place with a 12-5 record and are sharing the first place spot with the Santa Barbara Foresters, who also have the same record as them. In third place, the Arroyo Seco Saints with a record of 10-6. Then your Orange County Riptide with a record of 10-7 in fourth. The MLB Academy Barons in fifth place with a record of 7-11. The Ventura County Pirates and the San Diego SunRays are the last two teams, with the Pirates boasting a record of 4-18, and the SunRays boasting a record of 3-14. We could throw in that the Riptide and the SunRays have a tie, but since that game will be scheduled to be resumed on the 16th, there will be no tie added to it. Going on to the North Division.
But hold on, Justin.
Yeah.
Before we go to the North, I find it really strange how Conejo finds themselves in first place at this point in the season. Me and Andrew were talking about it, but I mean, they're just not a team that really strikes me as a first place team, not really flashy, but they really find a way to pick up wins. And I mean, they're not a team that the Riptide have had a ton of trouble against so far this year. I believe they're 2-2 against them, so split the series so far. But Conejo is just kind of a team that has slowly snuck up and crept up the rankings. Andrew, what do you make of them being in first place right now?
You know, you couldn't have said it perfectly. I mean, 2-2, all those games were fairly close. I mean, it's kind of a weird team because they have some solid pitchers. Their bats are okay, but they're just, I hate to say it, but kind of average. But you know, they've kind of just been sneaky. To start the season, everybody is thinking Santa Barbara is going to win it because they've got their head coach Pintard, who's been there for 21 years. He's won the CCL many times. OC always a great team, but it's really weird to see Conejo on top.
Yeah,
I think some of those games too, they played the academy a few times, so their record might not make it out. But yeah, just a weird start for sure, Adam.
And yeah, I definitely think you guys, Conejo, kind of being an underdog team throughout just not our division, but the whole entire CCL league in general. And I just think it was kind of a shocker. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on Conejo's rise by chance?
Yeah, sort of to make an analogy, I'm a huge Philadelphia Phillies fan, and we didn't have anybody really huge that sort of led to the team's success with the Phillies. I mean, we did have Bryce Harper and other players like Kyle Schwarber and stuff, but we slowly rose.
I feel like
quickly.
They got a little bit more of explosiveness than what Canadian.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, definitely a little bit more explosiveness. But it's the team mentality, and maybe they have some team mentality and the cohesiveness in the clubhouse. So I think maybe that's potentially something behind it, but I have not been able to look too much in Conejo, so I can't speak too much volume like Adam and Andrew did.
Yeah, and now going on to the North Division standings update. Like they were last week, the Walnut Creek Crawdads are still sitting in first place with a record of 13-5. In second, we have the Melno Park Legends with a record of 9-8. In third, the San Luis Obispo Blues with a record of 8-8. In fourth place, the Sonoma Stompers with a record of 7-8. And then San Francisco Seagulls with a record of 6-10. And closing out the CCL North Division, the Alameda Merchants with a record of 5-11. What's most interesting about this, especially when it comes to the CCL North, is how close it is in terms of the record. Actually, throughout the CCL in general, it is very close at the top for the CCL South. And then when it gets to the North, more of a middle of the pack kind of ground where all the teams are really close within the record. What do you guys think about just the whole update in general to the standings when it comes to the California Collegiate League as a whole?
Well, you mentioned the North and how it's kind of close in between. You really have Walnut Creek at the top there, and then you have middling teams like the Park Legends, the Blues, and the Stompers. The Riptide actually go on to play at the time of this recording. They're going to play the Blues tomorrow, head up to SLO. Long trip for them, but going to head on the road to go play the Blues, a middling team in the North. Some familiarity because they've played the Blues in the past. This year, the Blues in the North. So they're going to go up to San Luis Obispo to play them tomorrow, and then they play them again at home on the 9th. So going to be kind of a refreshing game, I'd say, for the Riptide. Sometimes you can get a little bit, I don't want to say bored, but caught up playing the same teams over and over again. You get a little bit of a fresh look here playing the Blues. That should be pretty interesting for the team, not only tomorrow, but then when they host the Blues again on the 9th at home.
Mm-hmm. And another thing to mention, SLO was the team that ended up knocking them out of the playoffs last year for the final game of the season. Andrew and Ryan, what are your thoughts on just kind of the California Collegiate League in general so far within the North Division, and just how close we are in the South?
Yeah, I think SLO missed the playoffs last year. It was Arroyo Seco that knocked us out. Sorry about that, Justin.
Yeah, no problem.
But SLO, I'm kind of with you there, Adam. I feel like it kind of gets boring playing the SunRays 6 times, the Oaks a lot. It'll be refreshing. It's always fun to go up to San Luis Obispo. They've got a great ballpark up there. A little bit different weather, a little bit colder up there, but still, it should be fun. I'm just a big fan of how competitive the league is. I mean, you got 4 teams that are separated by a game or a game and a half in the South. The Foresters, the Oaks, the Riptide, and then the Saints, all neck and neck. Connor Spencer was really speaking highly of the teams, and he said this is a must-win game every single game, it feels like. And to have that only halfway into the season is just impressive. But especially for the North, too. I mean, you got a lot of affiliate teams, a lot of new teams that are keeping their own. That's good to see. Good for the league's health for the future, for sure.
And what do you think what do you think the Riptide can do to take on these North Division teams, especially at such would say like a high rate of difficulty with the Crawdads and the Blues being the top 2 teams? What do you think the Riptide can do just to help get those wins against the North Division?
Well, I think the focus is definitely in the South Division games just because of tiebreakers. It's like you're playing your divisional teams, right, in the MLB, NFL, NBA. You want to beat the teams in your division. But like we mentioned before, it's a fresh look. It's just another team on the schedule that you have to attack. They don't have a ton of games against teams up north. I'm not sure of the exact number, but the 2 games against the Blues this week come to mind. It's just going to be a good opportunity, I believe, for the team to see some new arms, see some new bats, and play in a new environment too. This is a team that is going to have to head up to a new environment in San Luis Obispo tomorrow, and just bond as a team over that 5-hour bus ride home. Hopefully they grab a win, so it's not a long 5-hour bus ride home, but. It's good to, as a former baseball player myself, it's good to play new teams, good to see new teams. And, maybe down the road in the eventual CCL final, it's the San Luis Obispo Blues against the OC Riptide. And we could say these teams played against each other in the regular season. But odds are you're going to have to face a new team in the finals if you make it all the way anyway. So it's good to get new looks against new teams.
Yeah. And any closing thoughts from any of you guys? Andrew, start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think we got to keep going to the same tune that we've been talking all season long. Riptide need to score runners in scoring position. They've had a lot of chances. They're a team resilient that continues to fight. They've got a lot of guys who are red hot right now. I was going down the list before the game, putting up hot hitters, and it felt like everybody who's starting is getting hot. Just got to keep playing baseball. It would help if the pitchers don't give up 5 runs to start, but they'll fight back. And I'm sure as a pitcher, it's got to feel good to have a strong team that is on your back. And if you give up a few runs, you won't be battered around too much. So just got to keep playing baseball. Can't focus on the little things and just got to play strong, especially at home for the OC Riptide fans.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like Andrew highlighted, having our starting pitchers go further into the game. I think that's what it all comes down to ultimately. I mean, I know there's some other small things. Like last night, we had 4 errors, I believe, in the 5th or 6th inning, and that was detrimental to the game. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things is definitely the starting pitching. I don't think we can highlight that enough.
And Adam, what are your final closing thoughts just on the team in general and what the Riptide can kind of do to improve?
Well, I don't mean to be a broken record here, but it's pretty much the same thing every time. They lose ball games when there's errors. I mean, like any team, they lose ball games when there's errors, when they hurt themselves with walks, when they can't hit with runners in scoring position. Really, the formula for any team to win in summer ball with the wooden bats in the majors is to play clean baseball, pitch well, and be able to have timely hitting. That's really what it comes down to. We've seen improvement from the Riptide in those areas during this win streak, during this hot streak for them. If they can keep that up, then they'll find success, find themselves in the playoffs, and then anything can happen. But if they play poor baseball like they did early in the night against the SunRays, like they've done a couple times against Arroyo Seco early, it's going to be tough for them. So the formula has been simple. Connor Spencer, the manager, has reiterated the same message as well. Every post-game interview, we lose pretty much. It's the same thing. You play clean baseball, you can hit in tight situations, you're going to win. You can't, you're going to lose. So that's all it really comes down to. And I'm sure next week, if they play clean baseball and they're able to hit with runners in scoring position, we'll say that they had a great week and started a new win streak.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to catch any of your Orange County Riptide baseball games, you can tune into the YouTube live stream with Jeff, Andrew, and Dylan. There will also be a radio live stream as well for Riptide games as well. So thank you guys so much for joining me today for another edition of the Orange County Riptide podcast, the Rip Current, sponsored by Wild Rivers. Next week, we'll have another weekly breakdown of your Riptide trip up to San Luis Obispo and the game at the Great Park. Some more player/coach interviews and an overall update of how the Riptide are. Thank you so much.